Right now, possible record-breaking cold ahead for us here in Wisconsin. Chris is tracking our quickly falling temperatures heading into the work week. And ready for race day, local runners are in for an especially chilly 26.2 miles today. We're live from the starting line of this year's Madison Marathon.
From the Channel3000.com Alert Center, this is News 3 Now this morning.
Good morning. It's 6:30 in the morning on November 10th. I'm Keely Arthur, and we want to start right away with what will likely be the biggest story of the week. Dangerously cold temperatures. Winter is still more than a month away, but for much of the country, the big chill is already here and it's going to get worse. More than 170 cities, including us here in Madison, face record cold temperatures this week, and some places it could be 30 degrees below normal. For more on that, let's go right away to meteorologist Chris Reese.
Yeah, that's right, Keely. We are watching the cold, and today already going to be a lot colder than what we were yesterday morning when we woke up. Temperatures right now at 35 degrees, but those winds are out of the north, so those temperatures will continue to drop. 32 already as you work your way just towards the north and west. We continue to see that wind out of the north at 7. That has a wind chill of 29 degrees for us at the moment, and we're also watching what's going to likely be a sneaky shot at some light snow tonight that looked like flurries earlier, but overnight and this morning, watching some of the latest data, it does look like we could see some accumulation out of this, especially as you work your way towards the state line. Clouds remain the dominant story for now, but watch those temperatures. We will only make it up into the mid-30s for those highs today, and that's going to be earlier on with falling temperatures going through the rest of the afternoon. And Keely, this is the warmest day of the start of this next week, because as we go through tomorrow and into Tuesday, those high temperatures will be struggling out of the teens with lows into the single digits.
All right. Thank you, Chris. Yeah, we have to kind of embrace today. I went for a really long walk yesterday after hearing you give your forecast for this week. So it's going to be tough.
It will be, but we'll make it. We've got this.
We'll make it. Look at that positivity. Thank you, Chris.
My pleasure.
Well, hundreds of people are going to have to deal with these cold temperatures as they run more than 26 miles through Madison this morning. The annual Madison Marathon starts on the Capitol Square at 7 o'clock. Here's a live look at those runners getting ready. From there, the course will take the runners through the Arboretum, UW campus, Warner Park, and back to the Capitol. If you're driving through Madison, police officers will be stationed throughout the course to help direct traffic. The last runner is expected across the finish line around 1:30 Sunday afternoon. New this morning, impeachment hearings are set to go public this week, and this weekend, House Republicans sent a letter to Adam Schiff, the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, requesting witnesses they want to call during the hearings. Hunter Biden, the whistleblower, and anyone relied on by the whistleblower is drafted in that complaint. Now, Democrats can overrule any of the witnesses, though, which is why the GOP and President Trump are calling the process unfair. The president emphasized that point as he took off for the Alabama-LSU football game Saturday.
There shouldn't be anything. There shouldn't be impeachment hearing. It's a witch hunt, and it should never happen to another president.
Lawyers for the whistleblower submitted a letter to House Republicans offering their clients written answers under oath and under the penalty of perjury. That was they could question the person no matter what Democrats rule. But so far, Republicans have not responded. Leaders from Central and Eastern Europe are gathering in Berlin this weekend for services to mark 30 years since the fall of the wall that divided East and West Berlin.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
German Chancellor Angela Merkel and leaders took part in a commemoration ceremony visiting the Berlin Wall Memorial and lighting candles at the National Memorial for the Victims of Communist Violence. Friday, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo helped unveil a statue of President Ronald Reagan. More local news now. The Wisconsin Assembly is under fire from the Freedom from Religion Foundation over a resolution to recognize Thanksgiving week as, quote, National Bible Week in Wisconsin. The assembly is set to vote on the resolution on Tuesday. According to a news release from the organizer, the resolution would endorse Christianity over other religions and declare non-Christians as, quote, second-class citizens. The Republican lawmaker resolution says, quote, Bible reading has been a great encouragement and comfort for many people throughout our state's history and has contributed to the molding of the spiritual, moral, and social fiber of our citizens. The Freedom from Religion Foundation says the Bible promotes conduct that would be disapproved of by modern society. Tomorrow is Veterans Day, and a traveling memorial wall is on display over at the Watertown Library. Remembering Our Fallen honors 150 of Wisconsin's military who have died in the war on terror since September 11th. This weekend, the Veterans of Foreign Wars Post 3709 hosted a ceremony honoring those veterans. They are hoping Americans take a moment to remember those who fought for our freedom and didn't make it home.
They sacrificed their lives to keep our country free, and it's a sad thing to see all these veterans that passed that gave all.
We raise our right hand and we write that ultimate check, that blank check that says everything up to our lives. And we do it because we care. We love our country. That's why we do it.
The traveling memorial wall will be on display at the Watertown Library through next weekend. We have a first alert traffic update this morning that could impact your morning commute. Today, crews are putting the final touches on the expanded lanes between Raymond Road and County PD. But starting tomorrow morning, all 3 northbound and southbound lanes of Verona Road will be open to traffic. It's the first time that's happened in nearly 2 years. We'll have a live report showing you what it looks like tomorrow morning starting at 5:30. And the Packers return to Lambeau today for their only home game of the month. They'll be hosting the Carolina Panthers. The game will feature a couple of MVP candidates, Aaron Rodgers and his 17 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and 104 passer rating for the Packers, and Christian McCaffrey, who leads the NFL in rushing yards per game, total yards from scrimmage, and total touchdowns. Kickoff is at 3:25 on Fox. After last Sunday's flop against the Chargers, Matt LaFleur is trying to get the Packers back on a regular schedule, trying to make sure what happened in their extended stay in Los Angeles does not happen again.
They care, and they want to do well, and I think certainly nobody feels great about last week, but again, it's like any other week in the National Football League, on to the next one, win, lose, or draw. And so we got to make sure that our preparation is on point in order to put our best foot forward out there on Sunday.
And the Heartland Trophy is once again in the hands of the Badgers after a big win over Iowa Saturday. We pick it up in the second quarter. Jack Cohn hands it off to Danny Davis. 17 yards and a dive later, Wisconsin takes the 7-3 lead. Minutes later, the exact same duo was back, making it 14-6 Badgers. The game got close at the end, but the Hawkeyes couldn't convert on their 2-point try late in the fourth. 24-22 is the final score. This is the 4th year in a row the Badgers have won against Iowa. The team is back on the road next Saturday in a conference matchup against Nebraska. Well, it is 6:38 and temperatures weren't too bad at yesterday's game, but they won't stay that mild. Here is a live look outside. Chris is tracking several alert days and has your full forecast just ahead.
Yesterday was warmer, but that cold does arrive once again. Going through today, folks, we are looking at highs that will struggle in through the mid-30s. In fact, our high temperatures likely occurring now, but there will be another round of accumulating snow as we head through tonight, especially down towards the state line. Rock County, you work your way through Janesville, Beloit, over towards Monroe, you will have the best shot at seeing a few inches of snowfall to impact tomorrow morning's commute. And then the unseasonably colder air does come in. And if we do get a snowpack on the ground, those records are much more likely to be broken. Now, here's the funny part about this. Temperatures are actually 5 degrees warmer than yesterday in a lot of spots. A lot of areas are warmer than we were 24 hours ago, but a cold front has passed. We know that because our winds are now out of the north and west instead of the south and west at 7 miles per hour. We're at 35 right now in Madison. That's probably as warm as we will get as we go throughout the day. Look back towards the north and west. Wisconsin Dells at 31 right now, 32 in Black River Falls and Camp Douglas, La Crosse at 34. This colder air will all be moving towards the south and east as we go throughout the day. But what we're also going to be watching for is Doppler track to light up as we head into tonight, especially across the south. With that Arctic front coming in, we are likely to see a little burst of snow, but it could, again, accumulate, especially as you are closer towards the state line. Here's Future Track, and I will say I do think Future Track is going to be underdone in terms of the snow potential, but watch those winds out of the north today. Here come those falling temperatures overnight tonight. We are already in the 30s and 20s. Then we'll likely see a band of some light snow develop as we head into tomorrow morning. And again, the further south you are, the more likely you are to see it. By Tuesday, 6:30, a lot of areas are going to be in the single digits for those temperatures. And all of this is all thanks to a powerful cold front. We're talking the polar vortex. It's actually around all year long. It's just a piece of energy that rotates around the poles. Well, that's going to be dipping down over the upper Midwest. But remember the time of the year. It's November, not January. So it's nowhere near as cold as it could be. But nonetheless, we are certainly going to see some near record cold for this time of the year. Our forecast low Monday night into Tuesday, 6 degrees, the record low 7. If we do get some snow on the ground, I'm afraid that we may have to drop those numbers just a bit because they don't account for snow being on the ground. But with the models overnight trending snowier and snowier for tonight into tomorrow, this is just something we're going to have to watch very closely.
Yeah, and you said it's constantly changing. You weren't really expecting it to snow tonight, yesterday.
Yeah, so we were expecting some light snow, probably about an inch, not much. But overnight, I've been watching the models, and literally they have just ramped it up. And so some of these models have really gone bonkers with how much snow. So we're going to be watching that one very closely this morning.
Oh, thank you for tracking all that
My
for us,
pleasure.
Chris. We appreciate it. Well, if you are swinging by Starbucks this weekend, get ready for a little extra cheer. Holiday drinks and cups are back. Here's a look at this year's holiday cups, which have 4 new designs. Festive drinks include peppermint mocha, chestnut praline, and the eggnog latte. There's also a promotion being offered where customers will receive a reusable cup to get 50 cents off their grande holiday beverages. That deal lasts through January 7th. And looking ahead, Sears is expected to get through the holiday season, but the retailer could be forced to close another 96 Sears and Kmart stores by February. Going out of business sales will start December 2nd for those locations. After that, Sears will be down to just 182 stores. That's down from the nearly 700 stores it had when it filed for bankruptcy in October of last year. Time right now, 6:46. Boston is a mecca of higher education, home to some of the country's most beautiful campuses and elite universities like Harvard and MIT. But it's also where city and community leaders are engaged in a bold experiment to use higher education to transform the city's most dangerous neighborhoods. We'll find out how that could help curb gun violence next on News 3 Now this morning, Sunday. Welcome back. Less than 2% of Boston teens are involved in gangs, but they're responsible for nearly 3/4 of the city's shootings. These numbers are similar to those seen by major cities nationwide. But now the program Boston Uncornered is recruiting gang members, paying them $400 a week to drop their guns and instead enroll in college. Dana Jacobson shows us how the program isn't costing the city any extra money.
33-year-old Antonio Franklin is studying sociology at Boston's Bunker Hill Community College.
How hard has school been for you the last couple of years?
Extremely hard. Juggling school with my family, it's very hard. But when you value something, if you want it that bad, you're gonna push yourself to get to what you want.
Bunker Hill is only 7 miles, but a world away from the Dorchester neighborhood where Franklin grew up. He's there on a scholarship of sorts, part of a program that gives former gang members money to stay in school.
Some people may look at this and they'll say, this was a guy, he was in a gang. Why should we reward him by paying him to go to school now?
I would say that, we're not being paid really to go to school. I appreciate the money. It keeps us from detouring off of our path. It gives us a little bit of help. Getting in this program, it gave me a second chance. It gave me another opportunity to live my life.
Franklin started getting involved with gangs around the age of 13.
What were some of the things that you got involved in?
Well, I got involved with, selling drugs. I got involved with street stuff. I got fights. I've been stabbed, shot 3 times. I've been through a lot.
The game caught up with him in 2007.
A cop was shot. It was my actions that caused the reaction. He was shot by his own partner, and I ended up getting 9 to 10 years for it.
But Franklin's life would change at his sentencing, thanks to what that wounded officer said.
He wanted me to go in there, and he wanted me to change for the betterment of myself. And to hear that coming from a police officer, especially a police officer that was a victim of my actions, it really was a change of heart.
He'd served 10 years. Before his release, he got his GED.
Did you know what would await you when you got out?
No. That's the most scariest thing.
A friend put Franklin in touch with Francisco Datina.
This is my brother, so we help each other out.
Datina is a college readiness advisor. Like Franklin, he's also a former gang member from Dorchester.
My 9th grade teacher told me, he said, by the time you're 18, you're either going to be dead or in jail. At that time, I kind of believed it. I thought that was my path.
Did he say that to you as a warning or out of not believing?
Not believing in me. I just brushed it off and said, oh, whatever. But then when, school wasn't for me no more and I was hanging out on the street, I was stuck in that corner.
One day, a recruiter reached out from the local nonprofit College Bound Dorchester and asked Datina to take some classes.
What did you think when he said that to you?
Oh, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do no classes. I've been through it. School is not for me. And he didn't give up on me. And eventually, I said, you know what, I'll try it.
College Bound Dorchester helped Datina get his GED. He's paying them back by helping to recruit others into the program.
I always say it doesn't work the first time. It might not work the second. It might not even work the 3rd time. The key to being a recruiter and doing this work is not giving up. Always go back, try again.
Why don't you give up?
Because someone didn't give up on me. So I'm not going to give up. How are you?
Datina is now one of 15 recruiters who College Bound founder, Mark Culleton, considers core influencers for the organization's 3-year-old program, Boston Uncornered.
The strange thing is that I believe it's gang leaders and only gang leaders that can actually transform communities.
Why is that?
They're so disproportionately powerful, but that power can be harnessed for good.
I think the one unconventional thing that people find is you're going to pay someone who's in a gang, been in a gang, to go to school.
Right. It would be great if everybody could do exactly the right thing all the time. None of us do that. When you offer them a different opportunity and you say, we will invest in you to make different choices, they're desperate to do that. They want a way out. They just need an excuse and an opportunity.
Culleton can relate, having made poor choices as a teenager after his parents' divorce.
I immediately sort of fell off the cliff, started selling drugs, breaking into houses, just sort of went wild.
Yeah.
And I would get arrested, And my college-educated white mother would come down to the police station and like make the police apologize to me and send me home.
He says the philosophy behind the program Boston Uncornered is based on 3 core principles. Hire former gang members.
There's different scholarships out there. We're going to try to get you.
Insist on high expectations from students and invest in their future. In other words,
don't be afraid to put your money where your mouth is, to give these leaders an opportunity to make positive choices. And if you just do those 3 simple things, your city will change.
What did you think when you first heard about it?
I said it's about time.
Boston Police Commissioner William Gross, the first African-American to lead his force, sees this as an extension of the department's community policing enacted citywide.
We want to reach the individuals that are having challenges and then help them out. So are you actually paying a gang member, or are you paying a future, right? So you think gangs, right? We pay for the lawyers, incarceration, the upkeep. No. This is an investment into someone's future to change their life for the better, and that'll be a return investment for us, the community.
Like Antonio Franklin, using the investment made in him to lay a foundation for his future and his family's.
You have a 2-year-old.
Yes.
What does this program mean in terms of him and the example you're able to set for him?
A role model. Like, it shows that, you know, I don't want my son to look back at my life or Google me and see that, oh, my father was just somebody who was in the streets. I want him to see that my father, you know, he was in the streets, but he came home and he really did good, and not just do good, he did good for the betterment of everybody around him. That's who I want to be.
There's a full hour of news ahead on News 3 this morning, Sunday. Next, we're running through the morning's top stories, including the work week deep freeze, overnight chances of snow, and this morning's marathon. We'll be right back. Right now, eclectic food with a festive and flavorful twist. In this month's Tastemaker segment, we'll head to one of Madison's newest coffee shops.
From the Channel3000.com Alert Center, this is News 3 Now this morning.
Good morning, it's November 10th. I'm Keely Arthur. We'll get a check on weather with Chris in just a second. But first, here are 3 things to know as you get your day started. It's marathon morning and runners are just getting off to the races. The annual 26.2-mile event around Madison just started at 7 o'clock on the Capitol Square. Here is a live look at those runners. From there, the course will take runners through the Arboretum, UW campus, Warner Park, and back to the Capitol. If you're going to be driving through Madison this morning, expect a few closures. Police officers will be stationed throughout the course to help direct traffic. The last runner is expected to cross the finish line around 1:30 this afternoon. And the Wisconsin Assembly is set to vote this Tuesday on a resolution that would recognize Thanksgiving week as National Bible Week in Wisconsin. According to a news release from the group the Freedom from Religion Foundation, the resolution would endorse Christianity over other religions and declare non-Christians as, quote, second-class citizens. The Republican lawmakers' resolution says, quote, Bible reading has been a great encouragement and comfort for many people throughout our state's history. And finally, the Packers return to Lambeau today for their only home game of the month. They'll host the Carolina Panthers. The game will feature a couple of MVP candidates, Aaron Rodgers and his 17 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and 104 passing rating for the Packers, and Christian McCaffrey, who leads the NFL in rushing yards per game, total yards from scrimmage, and total touchdowns for the Panthers. Kickoff is at 3:25 on Fox, and we'll have highlights on our news this evening. And here with some highlights for the weather, Chris Reese joining us. It's going to be a cold one, Chris.
Yeah, cold and snow continue to be the highlights as winter dominates fall going through, well, the past couple of weeks and perhaps the next couple of days as well. Temperatures this morning starting out above freezing, which is oddly enough warmer than we were yesterday, but the afternoon will not be as warm. A lot of these winds are coming out of the north. That does mean temperatures will continue to fall as we go throughout the day. Madison, 35 degrees right now. This is likely about as warm as we're going to get. We'll see the clouds continue to increase as well. In fact, we've been watching that cloud cover, but we're also watching some areas of snow trying to develop just back towards the north and west. Folks, this will actually be a sneaky snowmaker that's going to be moving in as we head through the overnight hours, and that could mean some accumulating snow, especially as you work your way down south. Say places like Janesville and Beloit have the greatest risk of seeing perhaps upwards of 1 to 3, maybe even 4 inches of snow out of that tonight. So in the meantime, get ready for that, but do be prepared for the cold as well. We're going to keep the clouds around pretty much all day long. Temperatures by this afternoon will only be a couple degrees above freezing, Keely.
Chris, thank you so much for tracking all of that. We appreciate it. We have a first alert traffic update this morning that could impact your morning commute if you take Verona Road. Today, crews are putting the final touches on the expanded lanes between Raymond Road and County PD. And starting tomorrow morning, all 3 northbound and southbound lanes will be open to traffic. It's the first time that's happened in nearly 2 years. We'll have a live report showing you what this looks like tomorrow morning at 5:30. New this morning, impeachment hearings are set to go public this week. And this weekend, House Republicans sent a letter to Adam Schiff, the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, requesting the witnesses they want to call during the hearings. Hunter Biden, the whistleblower, and anyone the whistleblower relied on in drafting his complaint. Democrats can overrule any of the witnesses, though, which is why the GOP and President Trump are calling the process unfair. The president emphasized that point as he took off for the Alabama-LSU football game Saturday.
There shouldn't be anything. There shouldn't be impeachment hearing. It's a witch hunt, and it should never happen to another president.
Lawyers for the whistleblower submitted a letter to House Republicans offering their clients written answers under oath and under the penalty of perjury. That way, they could question the person no matter what Democrats rule. But so far, Republicans have not responded. More local news now. Madison has a new restaurant it probably didn't know it even needed. It's called Finca Coffee, and it pairs Latin street food and expertly roasted coffee. We sent our tastemaker, Andrea Bailing, to check out this eclectic new restaurant.
Yeah, so the national bird of El Salvador is the terragos, and it's a cool looking bird. And if you have a coffee farm that's doing things correctly environmentally, you get shade-grown coffee, really cool trees. That's a great and perfect habitat for a terragos to live. And what we're really passionate about is working directly with the farmer. For those who don't know, Finca, our name, is Central American Spanish at least for farm. So Finca Coffee or farm coffee. So we don't have a middle person buyer. We go directly to the farms, we work with the farmers. We're really proud to work with a couple of female coffee farmers in El Salvador. We pay beyond fair trade prices, we roast it, we create 5 jobs there. We bring it to Madison about once every other week via air.
Wow, and paying more than fair trade.
Yeah.
Why is it important for you to make coffee the way you guys do?
Because it has an impact on people in El Salvador. We can make a difference in people's lives. We work with farmers who also help build clinics and schools in the communities for their workers. We know environmentally we're not using harsh herbicides and pesticides, and it gives a better flora and fauna for birds like our logo, the terragos, the national bird of El Salvador.
At the front of your shop here, what are those?
It's called a cold brew system. It comes from Taiwan. It's called the Yama cold brew system. And what we do, it makes it unique, is that instead of using just water, we actually use ice in the top. It filters down through a paper filter, the coffee, then a ceramic filter. What looks like a still is actually an aeration. And anytime you aerate coffee or bring air into it during the process of brewing it, you actually help sweeten the coffee. So it gives it this really cool, fruity, deep, rich flavor.
And we've got a couple of your guys' signature dishes on the table here. Can you tell me what we have?
Yeah, so first of all, we have the pupusa, and it's pupusa, and it's the national dish of El Salvador. And it's a really simple food, but it's a great food. So you use the same maseca or corn flour and water to make the tortilla. And then you put a stuffing or a filling in. That one you're trying is called chicharron and queso, or basically a pork and cheese. We have for vegan or vegetarian options. We also have just bean or bean and cheese.
Okay.
Different combinations, served with a side of a semi-spicy coleslaw and then the tomato sauce. You're eating it like I would, a gringo, but down there, a Salvadoran. They just tear it, use their fingers like that. And then just like a little bit of coleslaw like that, and then dip it in there.
That's much easier than what I just tried to do.
It doesn't look as nice, but it's a heck of a lot easier and more fun. So that's how we eat a pupusa. Yeah, they're all over in El Salvador. There's street vendors of pupusas. There's stores or shops called pupuserias.
Oh, wow.
And so they're everywhere. People eat them for breakfast, lunch, dinner.
And what are these?
So if you go to El Salvador and you order a quesadilla, you don't get what we here would think of as a Mexican quesadilla with a tortilla and cheese. You get this. And it comes from, it's basically a sweet cornbread. The quesadilla from El Salvador, the queso part comes from, they use a little bit of cheese called queso duro, which is kind of like a cross between our ricotta and Parmesan, but there's also butter, eggs, and sour cream and sugar. So it comes out as kind of a sweeter little dessert. Goes great with coffee.
Oh my gosh, that is delicious. I wasn't.
I enjoy it.
Wasn't it when you say quesadilla? I'm not expecting it to be sweet.
Yeah. And then it kind of hits you, and it's like, wow, there's a little sesame seed on top.
Well, thank you so much for having us in today.
Oh, our pleasure. Thank you for coming in, and we invite people to stop by anytime.
Yeah.
Yummy. You can find more of Andrea's reviews in this month's copy of Madison Magazine and on our website, channel3000.com. Well, it is 7:08, and here is a live look outside. Chris has your chilly and maybe snowy forecast just ahead.
We are waking up to colder temperatures today. In fact, we'll likely be colder as we go throughout the day. But what my focus is turning on to is what's ahead. We are watching another round of accumulating snow overnight and then some unseasonably cold air that could break records as we head into Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, especially if we're able to put some snow on the ground. Right now, we're at 35 degrees, which is warmer than where we were at this time yesterday. But the signs of a cold front will be the winds coming out of the north at 6 miles per hour. Plenty of clouds out there, folks. I think we're going to be seeing the clouds all day long. 31 in the Dells, 32 in Black River Falls and Camp Douglas, same for Viroqua. Janesville, one of the warmer spots at 37 right now. But let's show you Doppler track. All is clear over us, but we're paying attention to the north and west. This is where our next system is coming from, and it's a little bit sneaky in nature. It's really going to try to just pop up kind of out of nowhere, but we are tracking it. It is on the map. We're going to be watching its every move. Here we are overnight. Some light snow will be possible across northern Illinois and southern Wisconsin. It's going to be very sharp on that northern cutoff. We're going to watch that closely. Eventually that pushes down towards the south, and that's where places in the Ohio Valley could see their first accumulating snow of the season. Let me show you multiple models here just to kind of demonstrate the reason there's so much uncertainty and where exactly this snow sets up. This is the European model of Future Track. Notice that it is much further north with that band of snow as we go through the overnight hours, and it also lasts longer throughout the day tomorrow as well. Now I'm going to show you our RPM future model, which is much more zoomed in, much more focused, but it will again show just the sharp nature of the cutoff. Here we are at 3 o'clock in the morning. You work your way towards the state line. That's where some of the heavier snow will be. But once you get towards the north of Dane County, I mean, it's literally the difference between steady snow and practically nothing. And that is where the uncertainty does continue to lie. But after that snow pushes on through, we'll start to see those colder temperatures coming in behind that into tomorrow morning. So in terms of numbers, here's the RPM again, about 1.5 inches as you work your way towards the state line. Less than 1/4 inch as you work your way just towards the north. But then if I were to show you the European model, well, it gives us nearly 4 inches of snow here in Madison with greater than 4 inches of snow as you work your way towards the state line. This is why I'm confident in saying you'll see 1 to 4 inches as you work your way towards Beloit, over towards Janesville. But then as you get towards, say, Edgerton, Stoughton, and Madison, it's possible that you end up with 2 to 3 inches of snow by tomorrow morning, but it's also very possible that you don't get anything. There is still a lot of uncertainty for these northern counties. We're going to be timing that out as we go through the day, but the moral of the story, folks, just be prepared that there could be some snow to impact your morning commute tomorrow. We'll continue to fine-tune these details as we go throughout the day. What we do know behind the snow is that it will get cold. We're tracking a blast of Arctic air that will likely break records for record low temperatures and record low high temperatures. But I always like to find the good news, and that is as we look ahead, the cold shots tend to become a little bit less frequent, and I do think we'll have a chance to mild out somewhat, although those temperatures will likely still stay below that average high of 49. Our warmest day in the forecast is next Saturday at 40. So things are certainly chilly. An alert day tomorrow morning for the potential snow and the cold. We'll keep the cold alert days around for Tuesday and Wednesday as well. We're also watching another sneaky snow chance Wednesday into Thursday, and that system kind of looks very much like this one. So I'm trying to see if it just tries to pull some last minute strings, but my attention truly tonight is going to be on the light snowmaker.
And we are really focused on the snow, but it seems like right now the story for the week is still the cold. Okay.
Yes, the cold will have a lot more impact than the snow.
For now.
Yes.
We don't know what's going to happen. All right. Thank you for tracking that, Chris.
My
we
pleasure.
Appreciate it. And we've been asking you to share your morning with us. Check out this gorgeous sunrise in Stoughton that was sent in by John Schmidt. Thank you for sharing, John. And what does your morning look like? You can take a picture and post it on the Channel 3000 Facebook page or on Twitter using the hashtag MyNews3Morning. We'll share our favorites right here on News 3 Now. From paintings to jewelry, people can shop at more than 130 booths at this year's Winter Art Fair off the square. The artists are coming from all over Wisconsin to sell their artwork. It is in its 30th year, and event organizers say it's the artists' holiday spirit that keeps the fair going. The fair continues today at the Monona Terrace until 4 o'clock. Time right now, 7:16, and getting ready for the gala. As temperatures drop, organizations like Porchlight become even more important for us here in Madison. Porchlight joins us in studio this morning to talk about how you can help them raise money and keep people around Madison warm this winter. That's all ahead on News 3 Now this morning. Welcome back. And speaking of the colder temperatures, we are joined by Ron Luskin. He is a board member of Porchlight, which strives to provide shelter, affordable housing, and supportive services for a lot of people in our area. Good morning, Ron. Thank you for joining us.
Sure. Well, thank you for having me today.
And I mean, it's only the beginning of November, but I'm sure you're seeing firsthand the important work that Porchlight needs to do to help people in our area.
Well, sure. It's unfortunate with this early onset of winter. We're seeing that our support services that Porchlight provides and other facilities here in Madison being stressed with the cold weather and the unseasonably early snowstorms that we've had.
Right. I mean, talk about the numbers. Are a lot of people needing to seek shelter overnight?
Well, Porchlight operates the men's shelter at Grace Episcopal Church downtown. We're seeing as many as 95 to 100 men that are there every evening. Also, we know that Salvation Army is supporting women with children. And the Beacon, which is run by Catholic Charities, has a daily census that may be anywhere from 225 to 250 people who are there from 8 to 5.
So we're talking kind of in short term in regards to the cold, but there are also some long-term things that Porchlight is working on to provide more housing. Explain that and explain who you're honoring by doing that.
Well, Porchlight is the largest provider of affordable and sheltered housing supportive services here in Madison. On Tuesday evening at Monona Terrace, November 12th, Tuesday evening, we'll be honoring Fritz Grutzner. Fritz was the founder of Transitional Housing, which is the predecessor organization to Porchlight, and one of our local philanthropist, Diane Ballwig, has offered a challenge grant of up to $100,000. So over the next few months, we're looking to raise $100,000 to take full advantage of that kind offer on the part of Diane Ballwig.
That's amazing. And is that just kind of another step in supporting people in our area that are in need of housing?
Yes. Well, we have over 350 units here in Madison that we provide housing and supportive services for people who come in off the street.
What should people do? I mean, I walk down State Street all the time and I'm stopped by people who need a buck or two or need housing. What should you do when you encounter a person that wants some warmth or some extra money? How is the best way to handle that?
Well, I think everybody should be guided by their own values, their own thoughts. But what I've learned from people who are professionals in this area is that they encourage me and they encourage other individuals to provide our resources to the agencies that serve the homeless here in Madison, whether that be Porchlight, the Beacon, Salvation Army, because we can be confident and sure that our resources are going to help individuals, whether that may be for housing, whether that may be support services that might help them get a job, get a home, and more importantly, I think for some people it's about refraining from use of alcohol or other drugs or substances.
So it might not be the most comfortable conversation to have, but just being kind of aware of the opportunities, the resources available, and then hopefully maybe directing somebody to one of those.
Yes. I think the most important thing, though, is whenever encountering somebody is treat them with respect and dignity, because people are at their most vulnerable state when they're lacking housing.
Yeah. All right, Ron, thank you so much for waking up with us and explaining all that important information. And a reminder, you can help Porchlight by attending the annual recognition dinner at the Monona Terrace and Convention Center this Tuesday, November 12th. It begins at 5:30. And there is a half hour of news still ahead here on News 3 This Morning Sunday. Next, we're running through the morning's top stories. Plus, studies show transitioning from elementary to middle school can lead to slumping grades. How researchers at the UW are trying to prevent it. Next.
From the Channel3000.com Alert Center, this is News 3 Now This Morning.
Good morning. It is November 10th. I'm Keely Arthur. We'll get a check of weather with Chris in just a second. But first, here are 3 things to know as you start your morning. The Wisconsin Assembly is set to vote this Tuesday on a resolution that would recognize Thanksgiving week as, quote, National Bible Week in Wisconsin. According to a news release from the group, the Freedom from Religion Foundation, the resolution would endorse Christianity over other religions and declare non-Christians as second-class citizens. The Republican lawmakers' resolution says, quote, Bible reading has been a great encouragement and comfort for many people throughout our state's history. And here is a live look at this morning's half and full marathon races in Madison. The runners are already off. They started at the Capitol and they're braving those cold temperatures, going to the UW Arboretum, UW campus, and Warner Park before returning back here. A heads up for drivers, you're encouraged to plan ahead for delays along the route. A full list of road closures is available on the city's website. And finally, we're tracking dangerous cold temperatures. Winter is still more than a month away, believe it or not, but for much of the country, the big chill is already here, and it's going to get worse. More than 170 cities, including us here in Madison, face record cold temperatures this week. In some places, it could be 30 degrees below the normal. For more on that, let's go to Chris Reese. And Chris, not only cold, but you're tracking snow now too.
Yeah, we've always been talking about that potential for some light snow tonight and into tomorrow. However, the trend that we've seen overnight as opposed to the past couple of days is that it could now be an accumulating snow event. I'll show you that system here in just a sec, but first, let's talk about the temperatures because the first wave of colder air has moved in along that Arctic cold front. Winds are coming out of the north now. We're at 35. This is likely about as warm as we get throughout the entire day. We go below freezing as you work your way just back towards the north and west. But again, here are those winds coming out of the north at 6 miles per hour. And folks, that cloud cover does stick around today. So it's going to be hard for those temperatures to truly warm up at all. They will be much more likely to drop with the colder air coming in. Here's more of that cloud cover, but you do start to see some light snow on the backside of that just back towards the north and west. Folks, overall, we're tracking a system that's coming down out of the Dakotas. That's going to track towards the south and east, and it could very well impact parts of southern Wisconsin, especially as you work your way towards the Illinois state line headed into tonight. In the meantime, clouds will be the main story along with those cooler temperatures. Look for us to really be in the low and mid 30s by the time we get you to the warmest part of the day this afternoon. Then Keely, by the time we get you towards early next week, these temperatures will seem warm because we will be far below them.
All right, you are a very busy meteorologist. Thank you so much, Chris. Well, whether you have a child experiencing or not, or you remember it yourself, it's really not easy going from elementary to middle school. And research right here in Madison shows a potential solution that's effective and very affordable. Danica Lewis has that story.
We just got all of our materials ready.
We all know good stories have a strong beginning, a solid ending, and a middle.
Can be a negative narrative around middle school years for everybody. We're gonna do this just a little bit differently today.
Dana Surway is one of those teachers at Toki Middle School hoping to rewrite the narrative for her students, making sure the middle,
and your grammar and your punctuation and things like that,
isn't forgotten.
Our kids have all these skills. They're creative, they're smart, they're kind, they're empathetic. They're already all of those things, and this is a space for them to come and develop and practice being the people that they want to be. Does that make sense?
These 6th graders come from 4 different feeder schools, each with different experiences, different challenges, different stories.
Even when you feel a moment of being overwhelmed, remember this. Do not cut out parts to save time.
Which is why people like Corey Foster made it his job.
They're finding their true identity.
To make the transition into middle school.
How cool is that to help with that?
Easier for students.
Sense of belonging has to be the core of it.
You're an adolescent, just like everybody else, and you're going through a lot of changes right now that everybody else is experiencing.
Did they feel like they were being treated fairly?
Jeffrey Borman is an education professor and researcher at UW-Madison.
Decreased the number of behavioral referrals by 34%.
Who noticed just how challenging that switch to 6th grade can be.
Students are entering puberty and going through all of the social, emotional changes, cognitive changes at that period of life. But then also piling on top of that, this big change going into middle school from elementary school.
Borman looked at more than 1,300 sixth graders across all 11 middle schools in Madison and realized most just wanted to fit in.
Very meaningful and substantial.
His solution is simple: share statements and advice from their peers, not adults, that show students they aren't alone in dealing with all of the changes.
The cost of this intervention was about $1.35 per student.
The results showed fewer issues with grades, attendance, and behavior among all of those adolescents.
These writing exercises helped all kids. It didn't matter the color of your skin, it didn't matter the wealth of your family, it didn't matter whether you were a boy or a girl. It benefited all kids equally. And that was the most exciting thing, I think.
Especially exciting at places like Toki, where more than half of the middle schoolers are students of color.
One of our greatest assets and strengths, I think, is our diversity.
Principal Kyle Walsh is also aware of the challenges that brings, which is why he's particularly proud of the Black Student Union.
I wanted to see people that look like me.
With the help of Mr. Foster and Mrs. Surway, the club has gained momentum over the past few years, giving all students a place to share their struggles, their successes, and their suggestions.
We need student voice. We need them to help us figure out where we're going because they usually have a better idea than we do.
It's no us or them. It has to be both of us.
Everyone with their own story.
We want to have the best possible story.
But working through it together, knowing the middle matters.
Having that mentality that we can pick each other up and keep moving forward is essential in middle school.
In Madison, Danica Lewis, News 3 Now.
Toki's administration is looking forward to working with Borman and his research team in the future to develop even more effective ways to keep sixth graders on track. In the meantime, the UW is testing the method at middle schools in Arizona and Texas to see if the positive results can be replicated there. More local news now. The Heartland Trophy is once again in the hands of the Badgers after a big win over Iowa Saturday, as the Badgers wait to find out if they'll move up the AP top 25 standings. We pick it up in the second quarter. Jack Cohn hands it off to Danny Davis. 17 yards and a dive later, Wisconsin takes the lead 7-3. Minutes later, the exact same duo was back, making it 14-6 Badgers. The game got close at the end, but the Hawkeyes couldn't convert on their two-point try late in the fourth. 24-22 is the final score. This is the fourth year in a row the Badgers have won against Iowa. The team is back on the road next Saturday in a conference matchup against Nebraska. And the Packers return to Lambeau today for their only home game of the month. They'll host the Carolina Panthers. The game will feature a couple of MVP candidates, Aaron Rodgers and his 17 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and 104 passing rating for the Packers, and Christian McCaffrey, who leads the NFL in rushing yards per game, total yards from scrimmage, and total touchdowns for the Panthers. Kickoff is at 3:25 over on Fox. And he's been called the Mozart of Indian music, and this morning he's in our studio. Next, we'll introduce you to Ravi Kiran Sir, an incredible performer, teacher, and artist who's in Madison for a 2-day festival. News 3 Now This Morning Sunday. We'll be right back. Welcome back. He's been called the Mozart of Indian music, and this morning he's in our studio. Ravi Karan, sir, is in Madison for a two-day festival, which ends today, and he will be joined at the event by high school students from across the country. Good morning.
Morning.
We have a lot of guests in our studio, but not often musical guests. So tell me a little bit about this instrument.
Yeah, this is basically a 20-string slide called the Chitra Veena. And it's a very easy instrument, but very pleasant. It's actually having a reputation to be very close to the human voice.
Okay.
So if people were to close their eyes, they could probably even imagine you singing.
I don't know if they want to imagine me singing, but somebody else singing. And so you're going to be in Middleton today. Have you ever visited this area of Wisconsin before?
Yes, I have actually visited Wisconsin several times before and had the pleasure of playing in many places, including the concert on the square with the Wisconsin Chamber Orchestra. And it's always a pleasure to be here.
And you know, this is an instrument. I've lived in Wisconsin for a while. I don't see this very often. What's the reaction you get from Wisconsin residents when they hear it?
Well, actually, see, the concert on the square had almost like 50,000 people. So
wow.
They were really very curious at first, and then they seemed to like the instrument a lot. So it's always very beautiful because instrumental music transcends language, religion, region, all kinds of frontiers. So people can just appreciate the melody, rhythm on just either an intellectual level or at an emotional level.
Is this instrument fairly popular in India?
Very popular throughout the world now.
Is it?
It was not as popular before, but it is growing in popularity.
Is it exciting to bring this, you know, kind of to a different group of people?
Incredibly exciting because I always believe that music is to unify people. And I love to work with artists from different cultures, orchestras from different cultures. Today we are going to have some outstanding musicians from the rock, Western classical, jazz and world cultures joining us today, both professionals and students.
What would you say to someone watching who's maybe a little curious? Should they come?
Well, they are curious at first and then they like the sounds of it because the sounds of instrumental music is typically universal. So, you know, they really like it. And I have created this system of music, Melharmony, which actually blends both Eastern and Western values. So we explore new chords and counterpoints based on the Eastern rules. So they hear the Eastern music in their language.
Awesome. And yeah, we're going to be able to hear it right now. If you wouldn't mind playing a little for us.
A little bit, yeah, today.
Okay.
This is more a teaser, but in the
yes.
afternoon, there'll be a full orchestra joining us.
Wonderful.
So it'll be very different then.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much. And if people want to see you playing with the orchestra, where should they go today?
It's a Middleton Performing Arts Center at 2 p.m. And we are also going to be joined by a maestro, L. Shankar, on the violin. And we have got some exciting percussionists, Neil Agrawal and Vinod Sitaraman, plus the orchestra. So it's all going to be a blend of a lot of different things.
Well, this was so beautiful. Thank you so much for joining us.
Great pleasure. See you all there at 2 p.m. at the Middleton Performing Arts Center.
Great, thank you. Well, you are about to take a live look over the Capitol. Chris is back with your full chilly forecast. That's all ahead on News 3 Now this morning. But first, if you have a little kiddo turning 3 soon, please let us know so we can celebrate their birthday with them. We'll be right back.
We are watching the forecast as we head through tonight, and yes, there's even a little bit of uncertainty along that as well. Overnight, a lot of the models started to up the ante for some overnight snowfall, and here's what we do know when it comes to that forecast. An Arctic cold front is on the way, and that we're going to see some light snow that develops ahead of that Arctic cold front. The greatest chance for that snow is going to be over southern Wisconsin, and the morning commute will likely be impacted, but there's going to be a very sharp northern cutoff with this. And so what we don't know is just how far north that band of snow develops. It's farther towards the north, that snowfall risk is going to be a lot greater. It's also going to last longer. If it's further towards the south, you're going to see a shorter duration of snow, and that intensity of the commute impact will be less. So these are the things that we're certainly tracking, and the air is only getting colder with that Arctic cold front on the way. 34 in Madison, so we've now dropped compared to where we were not too long ago. 31 in the Dells still. All the temperatures that are below freezing towards the north and west will continue to be ushered in our direction as those winds continue to stay out of the north. But out ahead of that Arctic front is a band of snow that is developing. That'll be tracking towards the south and east as we go through today. In fact, let's show you future track. Here's that Arctic front. We start to see that light band of snow developing as it continues to push towards the south. It doesn't look to last all that long, but it could pack quite a punch as that Arctic air moves right on in. Here's future track with the European model, and it's a little bit further towards the north here. It also does have a longer snowfall duration. Here we are Monday at 10:30 on this model with snow still coming down. Let's zoom in closer to home and show you that RPM model once again, and it's going to be a lot shorter with the snowfall duration, but it has temperatures on it just to show you the impact that this could stick to roads. 11 o'clock tonight, cloudy, but then as we move towards 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, that's where that snow could come in. Check it out. As you work your way towards the state line, that's where the darker blues show up. That's where the snow could be heavier. Notice how that quickly tapers off over the course of a county as you work your way up towards the north. But temperatures are in the mid-20s at this point and fall into the teens by the time we get that morning rush hour started. Here we are at 6:30 tomorrow morning. Some snow could still be falling, and then especially the case as you work your way towards the southeastern part of the state. Now, in terms of numbers, again, there's still a spread among the models. That same European model or RPM model that I just showed you shows a 1/4 inch of snow in Madison and then more than an inch as you work your way towards Janesville. Meanwhile, we look at the European model and it shows 4 inches of snow in Madison. So moral of the story, there is still some uncertainty. If you live in places like Janesville, you are most likely to get the snow. But then you come up towards Stoughton and it's possible to not get much at all. So we will continue to track this as we go throughout the day, Keely, and it will get cold. No matter how much snow we get, it will get cold and a lot colder as we head into early next week.
The one thing we know for certain, and I do appreciate you kind of laying out all the different scenarios. Hopefully we'll know
we're going to
soon.
watch that. I think it'll come into focus more so this afternoon and tonight, but it's a very sudden change in the weather modeling, and we're trying to iron out those details.
So, you know, dress warm, give yourself some more time on your morning commute. I think those are
and you
things
may
that are
need
safe
to
to say.
clear the car off.
Yes,
be prepared.
Maybe. All right. Fingers crossed that we don't. Thank you so much,
pleasure.
Chris. Well, there is more news ahead all day long on News 3 Now, and then tomorrow morning, good news for people who take Verona Road to work. I will be live during the first construction-free commute, but first we're heading behind the scenes of the latest local production of Guys and Dolls. This week's Backstage with Bruno is just ahead. Finally this morning, the musical Guys and Dolls premiered on Broadway in 1950 and ran for 1,200 performances, winning the Tony Award for Best Musical.
Now, Oregon High School is staging this audience favorite this weekend, and our Michael Bruno went backstage to check it out.
I dreamed last night I got on a boat to heaven, and by some chance I had brought my dice along, and there I stood and I hollered, someone save me. But the passengers, they knew right from wrong. For the people all said, sit down, you're rocking the boat. People all said, sit down, you're rocking the boat. And the devil will drag you under by the dreadful call of your checkered coat. Sit down, you're rocking the boat.
So first of all, tell me the plot line of Guys and Dolls.
So it follows two couples created by David Runyon, one between a gambler and a hotbox dancer, and the other between a gambler and a mission doll, as their relationships evolve over a period of like 2 to 3 days. For the people all said beware. People all said beware. Scholarship. And the devil will drag you under by the fancy song until we get the road. Sit down. I play Nicely Johnson, which is one of the couples, the gambler in the hotbox. Nathan's, one of Nathan's friends and one of the guys that helps him set up his crap game. A great big wave came and washed me overboard, and as I sank and I hollered, someone save me.
And what about age-wise? I'm always curious when we go into high schools and we see people playing an older generation, and the show is an older generation. So do you think about that in your character, thinking, how would that guy move if he was so much older than me?
Yeah, sometimes. No, I don't. I didn't think about that. I'm gonna be honest.
Honesty. I love an honest man. And now you have a certain connection to the show with some of their family members, is that right?
My dad went to Oregon High School in the 70s, and he played percussion in the pit when he was in high school. And he's back playing percussion in the pit this year with us.
So what's that like, having, looking down at me, seeing your dad out of the corner of your eye in the pit? Is that kind of a cool thing for you?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I've never been able to do a show with my dad. So having him in the pit is a really fun experience. And it's cool to see him see me throughout the rehearsal process rather than just hearing me talk about it at home and then seeing the show.
Call a lawyer and sue me.
My character, Nathan Detroit, is constantly trying to run his underground crap game that is constantly shifting from place to place, while also trying to avoid the wrath of his fiancée for 14 years, Miss Adelaide.
When I think of the time gone by. Adelaide! I play Miss Adelaide. She is engaged to Nathan Detroit. They've been engaged for 14 years. What she wants more than anything else in the world is to get married to Nathan. She tries so hard over and over again to convince him to marry her.
Adelaide!
I could honestly die.
Sue me, shoot bullets through me. I love you.
And you have one last chance to see Guys and Dolls in person. There is a show 2 o'clock today over at Oregon High School, and you can get tickets before the show. Very cool. Might want to do something inside today and for the rest of the week since the weather is very cold.
It's on the way. Our high of 36 will be earlier on in the day. Temperatures fall throughout the afternoon. We'll see a chance of snow overnight into tomorrow. I think 1 to 3 inches will be possible, especially near the state line. As you work your way further towards the north, so we're talking Madison and points north, there's just a ton of uncertainty right now.
All right, so wake up maybe early, give yourself some time, bundle up. Thank you for watching. We'll see you here tomorrow.